Thanks, Chris. And yeah, that's a great update from Ryan and Tim. So my name's Aengus Rooney. I'm a solutions engineer at Grafana Labs, one of Influx's partners. I work in the, obviously, Grafana Labs in the observability space. Sorry, I've just realized the clicker is not working. So if you go to the next slide, please. I work in the observability space, and you can reach me here on Twitter or on Slack, the Grafana Slack, or also actually I'm in the Influx data Slack as well if you have any questions. So obviously we'll have questions after this session, and there's an office hours later on today, but you can reach me anytime in Influx Slack or Grafana Slack. And that's a picture of me and my 18-month-old daughter just hanging out and observing things in general. Next slide, please. So here at Grafana Labs, we offer a composable observability platform, and that allows our clients to bring together their metrics, logs, and traces, i.e. the three pillars of observability into one place. And because Grafana is open, composable, pluggable, and extensible, you can use it to visualize your metrics, logs, and traces from many different systems. And obviously one of the best systems for that is Influx. The pluggable architecture, we think, is key because it allows you to gather all the right data into one place together. Next slide, please. So InfluxDB has been supported pretty much since the birth of Grafana. Grafana was released in 2014 originally by Torkel, our co-founder. And at InfluxDays in North America, just late last year, my colleague Ronald spoke about the release of support for Flux with Grafana 7. So Grafana 7 was released about a year ago, and we released support for Flux with Grafana 7.1 about a year ago as well. Support was actually built into 7.1 in, I think it was July in 2020. Flux obviously was released earlier in 2020, but it did have the predecessor of the Influx query language, which I think was around 2017-18. But what I want to do is I want to recap a couple of points, first of all, from Ronald's talk, which are quite important, and obviously I'll bring it over to this side in EMEA, make sure everybody's up to speed. And then I'm going to go and do a demo to show you how we can bring together the power of Flux language with Grafana to visualize some interesting data. Next slide, please. So Grafana 7 for us was a major release. Obviously, it brought along a lot of new features and functions, but I want to focus on two aspects that are of interest to us. There's the unified data model and there's data transformations, which allow us to process and blend metrics and logs from InfluxDB with metrics and logs from other systems. So as I mentioned, Grafana 7 was about a year ago. We're just about to release Grafana 8 next month, and we will have our own GrafanaCon conference in June. So do sign up there. There'll be some more updates. I can't tell you yet that pre-release, but there'll be updates in June. More updates in June about Grafana and Influx. On to the next slide, please. So focusing on these 2 points, the unified data model, first of all. Previously, before we introduced the unified data model, every plugin, every data source plugin, every panel plugin could define its own data format. And we wanted to unify that for ease of use and ease of creating visualizations. We also have been working on migrating from the Angular framework to React. And this spurred or allowed us to make the change in the data model. So the new data model Grafana brings us consistency and a uniform way to represent not just data, but also the settings, how you edit and use the data, the field formats, the overrides, etc. And that makes both the development of plugins easier, but it also makes visualizations much easier to build and much more consistent. Next slide, please. And then to touch on the other major change for transformations, we're not trying to be another ETL or BI tool and have like a major transformation functionality in Grafana. However, it is very useful to be able to have some transformational power in the dashboard and to be able to run high-level transformations of the data. So this feature was also enabled by having a unified data model. And then with transformations, you can perform operations like reducing of data sets, aggregating data sets, merging data sets together, and we can also do simple joins, filters, sorts, organization of data, and we can even create new series or calculations from multiple series together. So I'm going to be using this a transformation in the demo as well to show you how it's applied, and we're going to use some of our front-end transformations with the power of the Flux language to visualize some interesting data in Grafana. Okay, next slide, please. Okay, yeah, so the demo, as I mentioned, so Flux GA was in early 2020, and we had support just almost a year ago in Grafana 7.1. And I had to think about what does this mean exactly to Grafana and with Influx. And essentially, my thoughts were we can now use all the power of the Flux language, the functional language, which is a lot more powerful, obviously, than the original SQL-like query language of Influx. With all this composability, the libraries, the multiple libraries that we can now use to run math stats and run all the processing on the database to get real insights into our data before visualizing that data in Grafana. So if we bring Flux and Grafana together, it's very powerful. I thought about a good use case to demonstrate this, and I thought about a popular use case today. So our friend Elon is causing a lot of havoc on the Bitcoin markets today. So I thought a use case of storing tick data might be a good use case, because storing tick data in historical backtesting of trading models is quite a common use case. But most of us can't afford a tick database, an enterprise tick database. So I thought I'd try to bring some Bitcoin tick data, Bitcoin USD pairs into Influx, run some Flux queries on it, and visualize that in Grafana. Okay, so on to the next slide, please. And to do this, Kraken.com provides trade data on multiple cryptocurrency pairs via both a UI and an API. It is an exchange, so you can trade on it. We're going to use the Kraken ticker API to get various coin trade data. We're going to use a Python script to script data from the Kraken API. We'll convert it from its JSON format to the Influx line format, and then we'll write it to Flux Cloud. And then we're going to query it with Flux and visualize it with Grafana and build our own Exchange terminal visualization. So using Flux and Grafana together, we're going to be able to perform calculations and create alerts on events in the coin data. So for example, if we meet a strike price, or if there's a percentage movement in the coin value that we're interested in, then we'll get notifications for when it's time to go and start buying or selling our Bitcoins. And yeah, one more slide, I think it is. Yeah, okay. So I thought some people might want to replicate this as well. It's a very simple setup, actually. Sounds complicated, but it's actually very simple. You will need Influx, obviously. You'll need to use the Flux language for your calculations. You'll need Grafana to visualize the data. You'll need some sort of computer, a container or a VM, or even actually your laptop will do. I've used Python and pip to install some packages, but there's other libraries that we can see that are available from Kraken, and you'll need an account on Kraken. Actually, you don't need an account if you just want to. The only time you need to sign up for the account on Kraken is if you actually want to go and trade. You could do all this without an account on Kraken if you just want to visualize the data. Okay, so I think we're going to do the demo now, and then we'll come back and see if people have any questions. Okay, to build our Kraken Exchange trading terminal, what we're looking at here is the Kraken.com Exchange UI, and this is the exchange that provides trade data on multiple cryptocurrency pairs via both a UI and an API. So we're going to use the Kraken ticker API to get various coin trade data. We're going to use a Python script to pull the currency pair data from the Kraken API, convert it from JSON to Influx line format, and then we'll write it obviously to Influx Cloud. Once we have it in Influx Cloud, we can query and visualize the data with Flux and Grafana. So using Flux and Grafana together, we can perform calculations and create alerts based on events in the coin data. For example, if a limit is being reached or if a percentage movement happens in the value of the coin data. And we can also create notifications to send to ourselves to tell us when it's time to go and execute a trade. So for information, the Kraken documentation is quite good on its REST API, and it has all the information here you need, including some examples as well about the client libraries that you can use. In this demo, we're using the Python 3 libraries. I'll show you the script in a minute. And then also, obviously, from Flux, we have great information about what we can do with the functional language. We're going to be using a couple of examples like the derivative here, but there's plenty of different types of functions and mathematical functions, etc., that you can use for creating your dashboards and trends in the data in Grafana with Flux. Okay, actually, before I go to Grafana, I did say I want to show you the code itself. I will put this up on GitHub as well, so if people want to try it out themselves, it's quite quick and simple to pull this and get up and running. So yeah, we're essentially going to be hitting the Kraken API. We're going to be pulling out the JSON data, converting it to the line format for Influx, loading it up to Influx. You get our token from your account, security API, create your tokens in there, and a little bit of formatting of data. So when we write it to our bucket in Influx, we have some nice Kraken formatted data that we can visualize nicely in Grafana. Okay, so back to Grafana here. Okay, so we'll take a look first of all at the data sources, and we can see that I have my Influx Cloud configuration here. So recently we've introduced support for InfluxDB Flux language. So we have this configured here. And once you have the configuration set up correctly, we can go and save and test the connection and start to write our Flux queries. So maybe to test out we've got the configuration correct, first of all, we'll go and take a look at a query in Explore. I have a query saved here, which is handy. And this query is going to, I copy this and paste it into the editor here. Get rid of my history again. It is going to, no, I don't want that query from my history. I want this one here. There we go, that's better. Hide that again. So from my bucket, I'm going to be selecting the measurement of Kraken, so the data we're writing to the bucket in Influx from the Kraken API. Get the closed or latest filled orders for the XBT. XBT is the old ticker code for Bitcoin USD pair. And you can see here we've got the data appearing already for the past 1 hour. Great, okay, so let's go and create some dashboards that we can use as a trading terminal to give us some notifications when we think it's time to trade in our strategies. So I will create a new dashboard with an empty panel, and I will rerun that query actually. I will go to my Influx Cloud source again, and I will repaste that Bitcoin price essentially. So what we're looking at here, we'll call that BTC USD. Sorry if I can type, USD price. Okay, super, we're getting started. What can we do next? Maybe we want to get a stat on this as well. So I will duplicate this, edit, and click on stats. I will get rid of the threshold because I don't like that red color. I just want a currency of dollars, and then I should be good, I think. Right, so we have our latest price there for Bitcoin. Okay, so we might want to see, with a typical trading terminal, you want to see the volume as well. So let's clone this again. We'll duplicate this, pull it over here, edit it again, and now we want to take a look at the volume. Same query, change the volume, and maybe we want to change the graph to be a bar visualization. So now what do we have? Okay, great, we've got the price and the volume traded, which is excellent. Change color here. Nice, looking better. And I'll make this dash panel a little bit smaller. We don't need it so big. I do want to actually add some decimal points here. So I'll go back to my field and I will add some decimal points. Okay, so 54,000 dollars to the Bitcoin, but crazy at the moment. Okay, what else will we take a look at? We might want to take a look at a couple of currencies together. So if I add a new panel here, I might add an empty panel. I might want to take a look at a correlation of two currencies together. So I'm going to copy and paste the query so I don't have to type it all out. And here, change to my influx source. Paste in, refresh. What we're doing here is we're looking at two pairs. So we're looking at the Litecoin and XMR Monero cryptocurrencies. And I chose these because they're both trading at around a few $100s. If you were to graph this with Bitcoin, you would not be able to see these a couple of $100 coins on the chart basically. So now we have our Bitcoin and we have, let me give that a title, Litecoin and XMR to the dollar price. Okay, I'm going to move that a little bit down the bottom. I want Bitcoin volumes, price volumes, and then some other coin prices down here. Now, what I want to point out also is that we can use some of the functions in Flux to make our chart a bit more interesting. So I'm going to clone this again. Actually, not do a new panel. Flux should actually default that to my InfluxDB, my default data source. I won't have to change it every time. And I'm going to copy and paste another query, which is here, as you will see, using a derivative function from Flux. So the derivative calculus function is going to look at the rate of change over time for my Bitcoin price. So essentially, I should see, yes, okay, a increase or decrease of the price of Bitcoin to USD over a period of time. And in this case, period of time is every 10 minutes being compared. Right, so give that a title, and that is going to be the price change, Bitcoin, USD, price change, 10 minutes. Okay, that is, where is that? It's down here. Let's drag it up here a little bit. Down one. Okay, finally, I'll do one more chart, I think, and maybe we want to see the bid and ask spread that we can use in our trading strategies. So I will create a new panel. I will drag it down here and choose my influx source. I'm going to copy another query. In this query, I'm going to be taking a look at the bid data, but I also want to pull in the ask data as well, the latest bid ask, to get the comparison. So I'll copy this query. This query A is the bid, and copy that, duplicate that to change it to bring in the ask. Voila, okay. Got two series now, super. But what I want to do is I want to get spread. So to get the spread, I could use a transform function, and in transform I can subtract the two. There's different functions in transforms. I want to do a calculation on the fields. So I can say I don't want to reduce the rows, I want to do a binary operation, and I want to say the ask minus the bid should give me the spread, and I will replace the fields. I don't want the original bid and ask, I just want the spread. I will say that is going to be the bid, ask, spread, and also put that in my panel title. Great, okay, so we're looking good. Actually, I want to bring this down over here as well. Yeah, okay, I'm happy with that. What do you want to do now, though? I want to create an alert to tell me when I want to start buying or selling my coins when a certain price is reached. So a limit order based on a price, I would go to my price information. Let's edit this panel. It is last 6 hours. Actually, I want to just look at the latest hour. I think is probably more meaningful, and I want to edit this and create an alert for myself. And the alert is going to be when the price hits a certain value. So I'm saying it's around about 54. I think it's going to come up to 54K again. So let me drag this down for ease of use and get it more accurate down here. So 54, I want to execute it on exactly 54K. So, okay, when the coin hits 54K and it persists at above 54K for 5 minutes. That's a good period of time to evaluate. I will go and send myself a notification. So if I want to send myself a notification, I send it to a certain channel. I have Slack channel and I have a email channel set up. So price has reached 54K. If I save that, I can test the rule, save that, and then we should be good to get notifications now once we're up and over 54K. Now, because we've already hit over 54K, I should probably in a few minutes, if we're over 54K for 5 minutes, which is the evaluation period, I will get notifications, and they will be sent to me by email, which will look something like this. And it'll also be sent to me in Slack, which will look something like this. Okay, so from here I go and I say, right, I want to go and buy some coin or sell some coin, and go back to my Kraken API and go and buy or sell. What I'm going to do in my next blog or presentation is show you how you can automate that by using a webhook instead of having to send yourself an alert, or in addition to sending yourself an alert, you can send a webhook to a program to go and execute that order for you automatically. All right, so that completes the end of the demo. I will probably have a blog about this or add the materials to my GitHub. So anybody who wants to recreate this, they can do so in 50 minutes. Thank you all for watching. Okay, that wraps up the demo. I hope everyone enjoyed that. And that wraps up the session for today, apart from having now some questions and answers. So is it Chris or Kat? Will I read through the questions here? I have a couple from Kate here. Oh yeah, okay. It would be awesome to get the demo code in a Git repo. Yeah, I'm just, I did say I'd put it up in my GitHub, so I will, I'm trying to think where's the best place for me to share my repo. You can find me at github.com/Aengus Rooney Grafana, but I will post it on the InfluxDays Slack channel in the InfluxDays virtual. And if you watch out there, or if you just hit me up in Influx Slack, I'll share the link with you as well. Okay, on the BTC USD, will all panels share the dataset or query Influx Cloud separately? Okay, that's a good question. Yeah, so the way I built the dashboard and panels there, I was using separate panels with separate queries that will all, each of the queries for each of those panels will hit the Influx cloud separately. However, I could reuse a panel as a source for another query. So if you're trying to reduce the load on the database, for example, you can, in a way, I don't want to call it a cache, but you can use one panel to execute a query and then create a second panel based on the first panel that won't execute a second query against the database, so you can relieve the load on the database. And that's done with, if you're in the edit mode in Grafana, if you drop down the options for creating, bringing a new data source, scroll down to the bottom of all those options, you'll see a few options like mixed mode and panel mode. And that panel mode is, or dashboard mode is a way to query another dashboard or panel. Again, hit me up on Slack if there's any questions on that. I'm happy to share more information.
Yeah, in fact, please, if anybody has any questions for Aengus, just pop those questions into the Slido app, or you can save them for the office hours later on. That's fine too, if you'd rather do that. So Aengus, I know you guys are probably really busy with getting ready with GrafanaCon coming up in June. Any new capabilities that you can give us a sneak peek on, especially if it might relate to InfluxDB or Flux that you guys are working on?
There's I'll have to check on that. I think we're trying to keep the reveals all for June. I'm not sure I can announce very much just yet, but there will be a couple of sessions on Influx at GrafanaCon, so I would encourage people to come and join us there.
And as you were building out this demo, what were some things that delighted you about Flux, or even frustrated you with Flux?
No frustration. It's a great language. I really like Flux. The power of Flux over InfluxQL and all the functional libraries that you have available to you makes it just incredibly powerful to be able to mine and analyze the data that you have in Influx. So in my mind, I know some people like the SQL interface. Obviously, a lot of people are used to SQL over the years. However, trying to write advanced analytics with SQL is more cumbersome than using a functional language like Flux. So I really liked using Flux over InfluxQL.
And when we had the presentation with Ronald last year, he shared a couple of just new little things, nothing like earth-shattering, but things that he felt were really helpful. Are there any tips about Grafana or little things that probably don't get a lot of exposure that you think the InfluxDB/Grafana users could really benefit from?
A good question.
And it's never the one feature that's like always like touted, right? It's always something that's kind of like hidden.
I really like the Explore mode. So the Explore mode isn't widely, obviously people use Grafana for dashboarding and visualization, but using the Explore mode is quite powerful as well. Especially if you want to bring like two sources together, if you want to look at, say, Influx metrics and Influx logs side by side, you can use the Explore mode and have a split panel to monitor or explore your metrics on one side of your screen, and on the second side of the same screen have your logs for the same time period. And then there's a sync function as well. You can sync the time range. So for example, if you have a graph with metrics from Influx on the left-hand side and logs on the right-hand side, if you click on the time sync, it will reduce the time window on the right-hand side to whatever you have on the left-hand side. And that way you can correlate the time window between your metrics and logs on the same page, which is very handy, I think.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. All right, looks like we got a couple questions come in.
Mm-hmm.
You want to read them out loud?
Yeah, I'll go through them. Can we create queries via UI like for InfluxQL or just manually? Via UI. I think you're referring to the query builder. So with InfluxQL, we do have a query builder which allows you to build a query through the UI rather than having to type out the syntax. That's coming. So that's one thing that you'll hear about as well in Grafana 8 is the query builder will come for Flux language as well like we have with InfluxQL today. So not just yet, but we will soon, yes. And in InfluxDB2, we can have Boolean values. Will Grafana support that data type? Yes, I believe so. I'm trying to think of a visualization. So yes, the answer is yes. I'm trying to think of something an example I could use to display that. But I think the types of panels you would use would be maybe using a stat panel or something like that to display like a true or false answer to a query, potentially. But maybe is a Mirko, if you want to ping me on Slack, I can explore that further with you just to see what your use case is exactly and see how you would visualize that in Grafana.
Cool. Well, we already got some mad props from Jamie, who's a huge Grafana fan. In fact, there's a lot of big Grafana and InfluxDB fans here today. They're pretty excited about the Flux query builder, so everyone's really looking forward to getting a sneak peek of that at some time. So come join us on the Slack channel and share with us whenever there's an opportunity to do so, Aengus.
Sure. Okay, I will do.
Cool. And with that, somehow, miraculously, we're back on time. So thank you so much, Aengus. And if you have any other questions for Aengus, don't forget we have the Grafana office hours later on today.